What's your public restroom or locker room horror story? I was taking a dump in a one-person bathroom outside a gas station, and as I was pulling my pants up, a mom and her daughter walked in. They had to see my penis. They screamed and closed the door. I washed my hands and nervously walked out, and they were completely gone. They just left the scene. Edit. I've been wondering why I didn't lock the door, and I just remembered. I didn't know you had to get the key from the register. So the door was open a little, so I walked in and did my thing. Mom grabs key from cashier and she unlocks the locked door. And I meant there was no way they didn't see my penis because I was in the perfect angle for them to see everything. Not that they had to see it because it was a sight to see. So this is a little awkward, little strange. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a crime because he was in the bathroom. You know, it's not like this is intentional indecent exposure or anything, but kind of just that walk of shame of leaving the bathroom and just hoping that they're not still out there waiting to use the restroom when you emerge. And, you know, it's awkward. It's like, do you acknowledge it? Do you avoid eye contact and keep it moving? That's just, that's cringe. Story 2. I was at a track meet last week and just ate a huge lunch after a race, and so I needed to take a massive crap. I waddle into a stall and plop myself down in the toilet seat. I then proceed to push out the most gut-wrenching crap of my life. As I finish wiping and get up, I realize that a line had built up outside the stalls. I flush the toilet and it doesn't go down. The water level doesn't go down either. I then proceed to go on a walk of shame out of the stall as around 10 other dudes see my crap slowly rise out of the toilet bowl and overflow into the ground, seeping its way to the low corner of the bathroom. Story 3. About 10 years ago, me and some friends were driving back from the lake. I had to poop bad, so I asked the driver to pull over at the next exit. All I had on was flip-flops and swimming trunks. My one buddy, being an asshole, ran past me to take the stall, and I was left to wait for him in this old-style restroom. Next, this old man busted through the door, pants around ankle, shuffling his feet, holding his cock. He was projectile crapping streams of diarrhea all over behind him. He shuffled past me, pushing on the stall door, which my buddy had locked. I was pressed up against the wall, scared to death of the horror I was witnessing. The old man looked around, spotted one of those long urinals that go all the way to the floor, and made a spin for it. He turned his body to head to the urinal and spray painted an enormous load of diarrhea across my legs and feet. I screamed out in terror like I had just been fatally wounded. The old man bent over the urinal, pumping loads against the back of the urinal as it splattered everywhere. He just looked at me with these dead eyes and said, "Goddamn diarrhea." I will never forget that day, for however long I live. So it's early, but based on the stories that we've hit so far, I think we're just going to be talking about poop for the next hour. So if you're the kind of person that finds this kind of stuff funny, buckle in. This video is for you. Ha ha. Story 4. I ran a venue that sometimes held raves back in the late 90s. My girlfriend came to one with her best friend. I let them in free. At some point in the night, somebody came up and told me people were having sex in the men's room. My assistant manager and I went in. He thought he was hilarious and kicked open the stall and yelled, "You cannot have sex in here!" There was my girlfriend's best friend trying to give a BJ to a guy who couldn't get it up because of the drugs or whatever. She was clearly all effed up and was kneeling in an inch of crappy water because the toilet had backed up and overflowed. Story 5. Did a crap at the cricket and there was no toilet paper. It was before the start of the first women's game of the season, so unsurprisingly, I was alone in the toilet. I had no issues, but I had to wait until the next person came in. After sitting there for about a minute, contemplating whether or not I could use my old cardigan and dump it, a 12-year-old girl came in who passed me under a very decent amount of toilet paper. I said thank you to the girl, but also sung her praises to her mom waiting outside. I was so relieved. Story 6. The story is long, but I'm very embarrassed until this day. I'm on the way home from my friend's house and things started to get worse. I need to crap so bad that I immediately went to the nearest public restroom. Upon arriving, only one cubicle is available because the other two are out of service. I also find it strange that there are no urinals inside this bathroom. But anyways, after doing my business, I just realized that the flush is not working and there's just an empty pail beside me. I was about to get water on the drum at the corner of the bathroom when 3 to 4 girls went inside the bathroom. I'm still inside the cubicle and I know that they're going to use the toilet. Since only one cubicle is available, they're just waiting for me to finish. When I got out, they started screaming and asking what I'm doing inside the girls' bathroom. One of them saw my pile of crap and told her friends about it. Then they look at me with disgust and left the bathroom immediately. I'm a guy, by the way. Story 7. I was coming back from a road trip and we were driving for 3 hours nonstop. At this point, I really needed to pee, but we couldn't find a place to stop at. After another hour, I was very desperate and felt like my bladder was going to explode. Haha. So, luckily, we found a gas station with a bathroom. I was running to the bathroom, the only one there, when I see two little girls giggling and running away from there. Long story short, there was poop all over the walls, floor, sink, everywhere. I mean, I couldn't hold it anymore, so I just closed my eyes, did my best squat, went to my car, and tried to pretend that never happened. Story 8. Oh god, here we go. So I'm 100% straight. Dabbled the other way just to make sure, and I'm definitely straight. Anyways, so I went on a night out with some girls from uni. We drank a lot, and halfway through the night, we went outside for a smoke. When outside, they ditched me for a couple guys and went to make out with them. I decided to just stay where I was because they usually came to find me after an intense makeout session with other people. Also, I was pretty drunk and wearing heels. This girl came and sat down next to me and spilled all the contents of her clutch/purse onto the floor. I helped her pick everything up and handed it back to her. She then started getting really upset and crying because she's lost her friends. I asked her where she saw them last, and she said she didn't know. I said we could wait out here for them to come because they're probably looking for her. After a while, she starts squirming and says she needs to go to the toilet, but can't get out of her play suit without help from others. I'm starting to sober up at this point, so I said I'd go with her. We stumble into the bathroom and I unzip her play suit for her, and then close the cubicle door and wait by the sink. Next thing I know, she's grabbed me and pushed me inside the cubicle and locked the door. She stood in front of it and started grabbing me. I was like, the F, man, I'm sorry, but I'm straight. Let me leave, please. She moved out of the way and then grabbed me from behind, trying to kiss me and stuff. I started shaking. I was absolutely terrified of this girl now. I managed to shove her off me and then crash onto the floor of the bathroom in front. Funnily enough, her friends ran in at that exact moment and said, "Oh God, I'm so sorry about her. I hope she didn't do anything to you." Told friends about it. They laughed, now have different friends. Also, now I never go to the bathroom without some backup girls. Story 9. I have another one. I had gone out to eat with my wife at an Indian restaurant, and then we met up with coworkers at a bar afterwards. The colonic bullet train that often follows Indian food hit me. I did not want to crap in the bar bathroom, so I ran down to the gas station on the corner. I know, still gross, but in my experience, anything is better than a bar bathroom. But the gas station bathroom was closed. I had no time left and ran back to the bar and into the bathroom. I now realize that 1. The bathroom door does not lock, and 2. The oddest arrangement for a restroom I've ever seen is before me. As soon as you open the door, there's the toilet, with no stall, followed by the sink, then 2 urinals. I'm mortified, but at this point, this is happening. As I sit there blowing out Indian food, a steady stream of patrons wander in and out. Every time the door opens, I can see the entire bar. When they wash their hands, we are intimately close, and it is near impossible not to make eye contact as I struggle to end this nightmare of face-contorting colon cramps. Eventually, my buddy Brian swings the door open, sees me, and does an about-face while cackling hysterically. I don't know if you've ever had to wipe your ass while in close contact with strangers, but let me tell you, it is humiliating. I finally think I'm done with this nightmare and wander out to my table of coworkers who are all laughing hysterically and clapping. One of my bosses nods to the DJ that announces, "The shameless crapper has now concluded his evil reign over the men's room," and spins up "Doing the Butt" by EU. Story 10. Actually, here's one. In line at a festival to go to the Portaloo, and there's someone holding up the toilet for a good 15 minutes. Everyone in the line started getting annoyed and ranty until one chick ran up and ripped the door open. There were 2 girls wearing overalls, pulled down round their middle, with boobs hanging out, and started to yell at everyone while rubbing at their noses. They yelled something about taking a crap, changing tampons, and having a chunder, but methinks it may have had more to do with the coke up their butts and noses. Story 11. Not exactly a horror story, but kind of relevant. Maybe a horror story for the mom, though. This one time when I was a kid and was playing at the playground, I saw a kid marking a circle in the sand. He then stood in the middle of it, pulled down his pants, and squatted down. That's when his mom rushed in and pulled him away. Apparently, he wanted to take a crap and somehow figured this was a good spot. Story 12. At the gym, they have community towels for wiping sweat off the machines. Just grab a towel and do your thing. At the end of your workout, throw it in the towel bin. I sweat. I mean, wet t-shirt contest looking type sweat. So not only do I wipe the machines thoroughly when done, I also have to keep wiping the sweat from my brow. When I had finished my workout, I went to the locker room to change. Setting my towel, my phone, and my earbuds on the bench, I open my locker, take out my bag, and begin to change. There were other guys in there in close proximity, so I just kept my eyes forward and went about my business. Sweating. Still sweating. After putting in my clean t-shirt, I grabbed my sweat towel off the bench and wiped my face. Then I started putting my stuff into my bag. I looked at the bench and saw my phone and earbuds. They were still sitting on my sweat towel, the towel I had used during my workout. Slowly I looked down at my hand, at the other towel I had just wiped my face with. It wasn't mine. Ugh, it was so wet. Story 13. In the stall where I work, there are 5 stalls. 1 is handicap accessible and 2 leak in the back so that when you sit down, you just have this constant drip on your lower back. The other 2 were in use, so knowing that no handicap people work there, I used the handicap one. Of course, this is the day that a really higher-up supervisor in a wheelchair that normally works in the office about 4 miles away has a meeting and needs to use the restroom after said meeting. I had only seen this guy once a couple years earlier when I started at this job. I leave, head sunken apologetically, and he just gives me this knowing look. Not mean or upset, just knowing. Still keeps me up some nights. Story 14. I once had a parent-teacher conference in the nude. I was teacher. I was a member in a gym. Finally decided I could just change and not duck into one of those tiny rooms. Standing in my underwear when I hear, Mrs. blah 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 blah. Oh, you teach my son. Yep, I sure do. My principal allowed me to count it towards my conference hours, so there is that. Story 15. Not horror, but weird. In military basic training, there are no doors on stalls. Pretty shocking for 100 guys who lived at home the day before. We all have to go at the same time and stand in line waiting for the next guy to get off the pot. Well, turns out about 2 out of 100 guys on my team wipe from back to front. They actually stand up after taking a dump and then wipe their ass from back to front by reaching between their legs. Those 2 caught hell in the form of laughter and ridicule from the 98% that wipe normally. They changed their ways. But I now know some of you guys out there are wiping from back to front. It's 2% of you from my experience. You're doing it wrong, in case no one ever told you. Do people really do this? This is a thing, like, that even 2% of people do? What in the world? Like, I know there's technically not like a master class on how to wipe yourself, but wow, I can't even imagine. Sorry, I don't mean to shame anybody. That's just super weird to me and to OP. Story 16. I entered a Target bathroom to see a fairly skinny black man standing butt naked bird bathing in the sink. His clothes were strewn around on the floor. He looked at me, said sorry, and backed into the stall. I wasn't disturbed by this enough to back out now, and I went to use the bathroom. In the stall was a pair of crap-filled underwear. I'm not talking smear, I'm talking full-on soft pile of crap in his panties. Smelled horrible. I went and told the Target associates. I told them, there's some crap-filled clothes in the bathroom. The teenager replied back, not again. Target bathrooms are always a gamble. Story 17. I had to go to a meeting across the state. It was a long drive. I'd had a lot of coffee. So I went into the restroom about 30 minutes into the meeting when I thought no one would be in there to have what we're in the caffeine addiction biz like to call an ass disaster. So I go into a stall and just start going ham. Just anus blasting. Y'all know what it's about. After the London Blitz was over, I'm fumbling around for toilet paper, in a half squat, looking less human and more ape than normal, just dicking with the TP dispenser because all the paper was jammed inside it at a weird angle. I get it out and start doing damage control on my a-hole when this lady just effing busts into my stall. The lock was kinda screwy, but absolutely engaged, and I had a purse on the floor as a backup signal to passers-by, but this dolt just effing slams into my stall. She saw my whole situation. I didn't even feel like a person. I felt like a toilet paper monster. There was crap on my butt cheeks, and this lady stumbles in like a gazelle happening upon 2 lions having gross, disgusting lion sex. But does she leave? Like a sensible person? Does she say, oops, my bad for ripping that lock apart and ignoring the several other unoccupied and obviously open stalls and going directly for the closed-looking one with the crap noises emanating from it like a goddamn bombs over London? No. She looks me dead in the eye and goes, why didn't you lock the door? And just waits for an explanation. Like, lady, no. Go away! Now I'm the gazelle and she's the effing lion. I just take the hand not covered in crappy TP and start slamming at the door until she gets the hint. I also clogged that toilet, but plunged it, so no hard feelings. The worst part? I'm technically her boss. Story 18. I don't know if the school restrooms technically count as public restrooms, but nevertheless, the year was 2001. I was in year 2 at high school, and my younger brother had just started kindergarten. Whenever the bell would chime to signify the end of recess, there would always be a bathroom rush while everyone relieved themselves before heading to class. One particular recess, I'm standing shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of other kids, taking a leak into the urinal. Without warning, I feel a solid shove between my shoulder blades, and try as I might to delay the inevitable, I topple into the little gutter area of the trough. Many of the kids tried to avert their streams, but it was too late. I was soaked from falling in and then some from above, and as I look back up, shielding my eyes from the burning rain, who should I see but my younger brother looking down at me? I may have been covered in urine, but I assure you he was the one with the crap-eating grin. For whatever reason, he had just thought it would be funny to shove me into a urinal. The joke was on him, though, because the teachers quickly decided that I'd had enough for one day and called our mom to go pick me up. My brother didn't understand why I got to go home early and he didn't. I can still picture the look on his face as I waved at him through the window as the car drove away and the teachers were scolding him. Story 19. This is my near-miss horror story. Had some hot wings, the kind you need to sign a waiver for, with my cousin just before a dinner with my girlfriend and various members of my family at my brother's father-in-law's house in the rich part of Vancouver. We both managed to finish the wings, but my cousin couldn't hold them down, and 10 minutes later, everything was back up. I was victorious. Fast forward a couple of hours. I can't eat at dinner, and my stomach is feeling awful. I go to the very fancy bathroom and throw up. Nuclear hot sauce is not the nicest thing going in, but coming back out at body temperature and mixed with stomach acid makes it particularly vile and creates a feedback loop that makes me want to throw up more. Eventually it finishes. I clean up and head back out to the rest of the family. After another hour or so, my uncle, girlfriend, and I go for a walk. About 10 minutes in, I instantly, and I quite literally mean instantly, have to go to the toilet. My guts decided to do a backflip, and I had to stop on the spot to close my sphincter. My girlfriend and uncle found this weird, and I had to explain the situation. I sent my girlfriend on a scouting mission to find the nearest toilet. Fortunately, half a block away, there's a bar. So, in between waves of oncoming craps, I shuffle towards the bar. I get to the toilet, and there's one cubicle, currently occupied. I'm desperate. I know that soon I won't be able to hold it in. I have a great idea. I'll go to the women's. The leave the men's and opposite is the women's. It's locked. Turns out to be my girlfriend in there. I go back to the men's. I wait 10 seconds. It's coming. There's no way I'm going to be able to hold it much longer. I look at the urinal. It's my only option. Otherwise, I'm crapping myself. I reach to unbuckle my belt, and then, by some miracle from the gods, I hear a flush. I get a rush of adrenaline, and that gives me the power to close my ass in time to rush past the man exiting the cubicle. He says something to me, but at this point I couldn't care less and just apologize. I sit down and release. It was glorious. Purely magical. I can't tell you how happy I was to not crap myself. There was loads of splashback, but I could deal with that. It was over in seconds. I look at the toilet roll holder, and to my dismay, there was nothing. Turns out, the guy told me that there was no toilet paper. However, it seems like the gods weren't quite done with me yet. I hear the door open to the toilet, and I can see shoes coming towards the cubicle. It was the guy who had just finished with a roll of toilet paper in his hand. He passed it under the door and told me he thought I needed it. The Canadians are so damn friendly. Story 20. I was studying for finals in my university's library and had to take a crap. The restroom was dead silent until I heard a rhythmic noise nearby. I thought, gee, is someone putting on lotion or what? The noise persisted and it started to intensify. It then dawned on me. Fapping. And the worst part? It stopped mid-crap. Some dude came in my vicinity, and to be completely honest, I have a problem with that. Story 21. When I was in middle school, our female gym teacher was relatively masculine and was rumored to be a lesbian. She was also not a very nice person, though probably because she had no choice but to be tough. Anyway, being a middle school in mid-2000s, LGBT issues and people were still considered extremely taboo. a cruel rumor started that she had a camera in the locker room to record all of the girls changing. I thought it was super mean and chose not to perpetuate it. I didn't believe it until I saw it after basketball practice one night. There was a tiny webcam on top of one of the far lockers, pointed out across the whole locker room. It had a blinking red light. My blood ran cold. At this point, I could have checked it out or gone to another teacher, but I was 12 and instead decided to ramp up the rumor mill more and tell all my friends what I had seen. The next time I was in the locker room, the webcam was gone. The gym teacher also confronted me about spreading hurtful rumors and asked where I heard it from, etc. She effectively managed to shut it down before it reached school administration, and nothing ever came of it. It's always bothered me because if she was guilty, I tipped her off by spreading gossip, and if she was innocent, I was a huge jerk that perpetuated a homophobic rumor. At this point, I don't know which narrative is accurate. The whole thing just makes me feel bad. Story 22. I'm sure you're expecting feces, dirty/insane people, but this is a bit different. I was in a stall in an old bar on the border of Canada and the US. I heard a loud bang on the door. The friend I was with has no boundaries, so I looked under the door to prevent her from crawling under it. Nothing. Nobody. I finish my business and go to leave the stall. It's unlocked. I was drunk, so maybe I forgot, but I haven't ever before. Now, the door opened in, so with the door unlocked, whatever banged did it from the inside. I go out to the table and say, I just had the most effed up bathroom experience. Almost in unison, they all said, "The ghost?" Story 23. First night staying at my girlfriend's house, and I get bad diarrhea. After spending 20 minutes filling the bowl with liquid chocolate, I go to flush, and to my horror, the toilet blocks. For some reason, the bathroom had no plunger, toilet brush, or anything I could use to remedy the situation. After panicking for a few minutes, I noticed the smell was getting bad in the bathroom, and to save embarrassment in front of my girlfriend's family, who I just met, I had to clear the toilet ASAP. I made a split-second decision to shove my arm down the toilet and clear the pipe by hand. I didn't quite register what I had done until I was scraping my toilet paper and crap from out of the pipes. God must have smiled upon me because the next flush worked perfectly. Although the toilet was clear, my conscience was not. This story, if true, absolutely not worth it. First of all, you have to have the smallest hands of all time to be able to reach into a toilet bowl and clear out the pipes. But also, you get that all over your clothes, your arm, there's no way, there's no amount of hand soap in a bathroom that can wash that away. So you might have cleared the toilet, man, but now you're just going to smell like crap for the rest of the day. Just own it, man. Everybody does it. Everybody poops, okay? Let me just make that announcement right now. Everybody takes dumps. Everybody has clogged up at least one toilet in their lifetime. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Just own it, and let's do this as cleanly as possible. As cleanly as possible. Come on, we can do better than that. Story 24. I was out shopping with my toilet training toddler son and infant daughter when my son said he needed to go. Made our way to facilities. We discovered there was no parents' room where I could park the stroller and help my son. No problem, I thought. We'll just duck into the accessible for a minute. The door was equipped with a push button. My son, a rampant button pusher, gleefully hit it, only to be met with the sight and sound of an elderly woman screaming whilst sitting on the loo with her pants around her ankles, obviously regretting not locking the door. This was unfortunate enough. However, the door had a timer to allow people plenty of time to get through. I stood awkwardly in the doorway trying to shield the poor woman from passing shoppers' view whilst inwardly dying of shame. Longest 30 seconds of my life. Story 25. Been to a mountain resort up in Switzerland and was rushing for the toilet before the brown prawn breaks through the manhole. Put down the toilet seat and discovered a line of excrement lining the seat. That was disgusting. Story 26. Back in junior high, I was just using the bathroom. Then I look up and see one of the chicks I hang out with just watching me pee. It was so weird, and she just started laughing and kept watching. Afterwards, we got back to the group. She was bragging about how she was watching me pee, and everyone was laughing with her about it. To this day, I guess it was okay because she was seen as this super pretty chick that could do no wrong. Stuff was weird. Story 27. Went out to eat at a place about 20 minutes from our house. On the way home, things started to not feel good. I'm going to crap my pants, and I'm still 10 minutes from my house. There is some new home construction, and I see a porta potty at one of the home sites. So I fly around the corner, screech to a halt, and jump in. That's when my effing zipper in my pants sticks, and I crap so much bad calamari diarrhea that it's literally flowing out the bottom of my pants. I text my wife, whom is in the car, that I didn't make it. The wife drives the 20 minutes round trip to our house to get me some clothes while I stand in a 100-degree crap house surrounded by my own poo. This right here is like ultimate wife/spouse goals. If you're listening to this and you're not married, don't agree to marry the person that you're thinking about married unless you're absolutely certain that they would do this exact same thing for you in this situation. Wow, what a woman. That's true love right there, folks. Story 28. Went into a public restroom that appeared empty. Locked myself in a stall and started doing my thing. That's when I noticed there is a woman in the next stall. Not because I saw her feet, but because she was singing. It was a weird monotone straight out of a horror movie. And the lyrics, as she very audibly pooped, were, come out, that's so much better. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. It wasn't a horrific experience, but I was certainly creeped out. Story 29. I manage a team of people fairly high up in the organization, and I pop around to all different areas in the building for meetings and such. I have an open door policy, and since everybody in my business unit knows who I am, I get a lot of people stopping me to have a chat and pitch ideas and whatnot. I'm sitting in a meeting one day, a few levels down from my own floor, and I begin to feel the rumblings of discontent from my bowels. There isn't long to go, so I clench and tough it out until blissfully the meeting ends. I scoop up my stuff and head out the door, and around the first corner is Tim. Tim was an awkward young man who would stop me often around the place to talk about some idea or discuss company strategy or whatever. I like talking to people around the company, but Tim was just always around to the point where I'd dodge him if I saw him coming. Tim starts rambling about some point of company policy, while at the same time my colon is sounding the emergency self-destruct alarm. I stop Tim at the first pause, tell him that sounds interesting, but I have to run to another meeting on the top floor. Perhaps we could touch base on it later? He looks ecstatic at the opportunity. I turn the corner, zigzag around the foyer, and dodge into the bathroom. The bathroom has an odd setup. The cubicles are at the back, but they're arranged around a central point. You can't tell what's occupied unless you walk around to all the doors to look for a vacant one. But the benefit is that they don't share any walls, so each one is like its own little island. The bathroom is empty, so I take the one furthest away from the door and release fury. After the initial release, I hear the bathroom door open and then another cubicle door open and lock. Even though I'm isolated, I reflexively clench up until my primal toilet brain assesses what's going on. I'm wanting to hear something which signals the unspoken agreement that toilet trumpeting may recommence. However, nothing appears to be happening. Then I hear the first one. It's the sort of moan you make when you're trying to be quiet but can't. Then comes a few more. Some heavy breaths, quiet but echoing around the cubicles. I realize I'm trapped while someone decides to rub one out, probably an arm's reach away. Uncomfortable is an effing understatement, but I've got no choice but to wait it out. Then the whispering starts. I don't catch what they're saying at first, just a low sort of mumble. Then suddenly, there it is, clear enough to make out, "Come on my face." The awkwardness dial is up to 11. My mind wants me to crawl down the sewer to escape, and that's when I hear, "Yes, F my face, just do what I's." Everything stops. I stop breathing, my heart stops, everything stops. I recognize the voice. I know what the F is going on. That's Tim. That annoying, pops up everywhere guy is jacking off next to me whilst imagining me effing his face. There's nothing that prepares me for what to do in this situation. I'm petrified of doing anything, even though I want to scream and run. Mercifully, the whispering has stopped. There's a flush. The cubicle opens and closes. The sound of washing hands and then the bathroom door, and I'm alone again. I stayed there, not moving for 20 minutes. My phone was lighting up with people trying to get a hold of me, and when I tried to stand up, my legs had fallen asleep. I had missed a meeting and had to explain to my boss what happened. I didn't really, but at that point I really wanted to tell someone. I hadn't had this happen before. He hadn't either. We both just kind of sat there not knowing what to do. We still don't talk about it, but we will occasionally make reference to the incident, just to make sure there hasn't been any problems. It's weird, but there's always this brief pause and then a nod, and it's like nothing was ever said until next time. Story 30. I was taking a train with my friends. We wanted to visit Cologne. Unfortunately, I drank too much coffee beforehand, and halfway up to our destination, I needed to pee. As soon as I opened the door to the restroom, I stumbled backwards. It smelled as if someone had died in there, crapping his pants. I make my way back to my friends, who agree to get off the train at the next stop and look for a bathroom. Fast forward a few minutes, and I'm standing at a gas station next to the train station in some godforsaken little place with hardly any signs of civilization in sight. The employee hands me the key to the restrooms, and I'm so happy I could cry. My bladder is close to exploding, and a key means they keep their restroom tidy, right? Wrong. Somehow I managed to find a worse place to pee. There's feces smeared all over the walls. It looks like they've kept a group of monkeys locked inside there for weeks. I stumble back again and bring back the key without relieving myself. Fast forward again and we're waiting for the next train. I'm so full of pee I can almost taste it at the back of my tongue. When the train arrives, the restroom smells of death again, but I just hold my breath and pee anyway. I felt like a kingdom for a shower for the rest of our delayed trip. Story 31. I was about 16 and walked into the ladies' room. There was a woman standing with her back to the door and making this bizarre grinding noise. I didn't know what the hell she was doing. Scared the hell out of me. I ran right back out the door. Freaked me out for a good long while, until much later when I learned about breast pumps. Story 32. Oh man, have I got a pretty good one. My good friend and I were at a theme park in Virginia, and we both needed to go to the bathroom, 2 grown men. So we find the closest one and claim our respective stalls. About 2 minutes in, I hear an incredibly loud bang, and my friend shouts, "Oh God, lift your feet!" What? Why? He shrieked again, "Lift your goddamn feet!" I hoist my legs up with my hands, and just as I do, nasty bathroom poo water starts flowing through my stall. Something had broken in the toilet next to my friend, and it started shooting water out of the top, overflowing all over the bathroom. Thank God he let me know in time so I didn't ruin my clothes. Unfortunately, he was not so lucky. Best part of the story? We go to the gift shop and there are absolutely no men's shorts available for sale. But he couldn't walk around in his gross shorts all day, so he walked out in a pair of way too small, Softy shorts with King's Dominion, name of the park, written across the ass. Having to walk around with this guy for the day was better entertainment than the park. I think I may still have a picture somewhere, actually. Story 33. I was taking a pee at a concert once. There was a guy left and right of me. It wasn't ideal, and I'm a shy peer. Anyway, I had my phone and wallet in one hand, and the phone went off. I also had it on extra loud because concert. I tried to silence it, had a bit of a panic fumble, and semi-dropped the phone and penis. Phone made the loudest photograph clicking noise I've ever heard. Also, I couldn't have taken a better dick pic of the guy next to me if you tried. I had it in photo mode because concert also. I scooted out of there fast. I said sorry, but he didn't look like he was going to laugh it off at all. I'll never forget that face he made at me, and I sort of agree with him. Spent the rest of the concert expecting to get kicked out or jumped. Story 34. Thankfully, I've never had one happen to me, yet, but I did bear witness to what will have been absolutely horrendous for the poor girl involved. Okay, to set the scene. Close to where I live, there's a riverboat that people usually book out on weekends for cruises along the river, but with a bar, barbecue, and disco. Typically, you'd get several small gatherings from offices and whatnot amongst the crowd, probably about 40 people max. Myself and a friend had been invited along because my friend's parents had been invited and there were spare spaces. Anyway, the boat casted off and we drank and ate and chatted. It was a lovely night, so we spent as much time as we could in the outside of the boat, instead of being inside or under the cover they have on the outside. This meant that we pretty much ended up at the back end of the boat, which is where the 2 toilet cubicles were. I was standing talking to my friend and his dad when a young girl, probably 19 to 20, from one of the other parties came over to ask us if we were queuing for the toilet. We weren't, so she let herself into one of the doors, as one was locked. The girl was fairly attractive and was dressed in one of those playsuit things. Anyway, whilst we were chatting, we weren't really paying attention, but a guy from another party came down the stairs from the upper deck of the boat, visibly a little worse for wear. Not drunk, but well on the way. He didn't ask us if we were queuing, as the girl had previously. He caught our attention as he was quite violently pulling at the locked cubicle, next to the cubicle the young girl was in. He then moved to the cubicle which she was in, and as the 3 of us started to say in chorus, "There's someone else in there," he yanked at the door and the lock gave way. The poor girl must have had to totally remove the playsuit she was wearing in order to use the toilet. She must have also been just about to redress as she stood in the cubicle. The 4 of us saw everything. She screamed. We pulled the guy away whilst shutting the door for her. It took her a long time before she came back out. We moved elsewhere and didn't make eye contact for the rest of the night. Story 35. I was traveling with school in a rural part of a large country with squat toilets. After a long train ride, I really had to pee and decided to brave the questionable-looking train station bathroom. I walked into the bathroom and was greeted by an old woman with her stall door wide open, squatting over a trough that connected all the stalls, taking an intense crap. She made eye contact and stared at me while she did her business. Luckily, another stall was open and I rushed to it, eager to get in and out as fast as possible. The stall was incredibly small, and I had to navigate my ass around an overflowing trash can filled with, very visibly, used feminine products. Right as I started to go, the trough flushed and water started shooting down through all the stalls, splashing up onto my butt. Thank goodness I was at the top of the trough, but still, when I finished, I ran out of there, passing the old woman who was still getting the job done. I took the longest 2 showers of my life after that experience. Yeah, this I would say, if not number 1, is definitely in the top 3 advantages to being a dude, is that we can do our business standing upright. And so backsplash and stuff like that, that's not an issue, unless you sit when you pee, in which case we need to have a very serious discussion about what's going on there. Unless you're at home, like your literal house, not someone else's house, every man should pee standing on their 2 feet, and I will die on this hill. Story 36. So apparently in some parts of the states, gangs will hide in barely used rest stops, wait for people to let their guard down and park there, only to be brutally beaten to death. My dad saw the red flags and halls at seeing figures in his rearview mirror come out of the shadows. He was chased by a car, assuming the same guy still wanted him. Cops were called, weapons were drawn, it turned into a mess. They found a body of one of their victims. Story 37. Not really that bad, but when I went to the restroom at my local grocery store back in 2015, I had to go number 2. I heard a few guys walk in while I was going just to pee. I thought nothing of it. When I was going, I let out a kinda loud, "Oh!" like Tio Salamanca from Breaking Bad. I then wipe, flush, and pull up my pants, but as soon as I open the stall door, I see a guy who works there holding a mop. Apparently, he was waiting for me to leave, but he was just in the restroom itself waiting. Weirdo. I awkwardly washed my hands and left. Story 39. Worked at a convenience store about a decade ago. Was working an overnight shift. This 18/19-year-old kid, drunk off mouthwash, comes in and goes to the restroom. It's around 5 a.m., so it's starting to get busy, getting breakfast sandwiches ready and loads of coffee. It's been about 10 minutes, and haven't seen him come out. I'm checking the store, cleaning up, and heading to the restrooms to make sure they are clean as well. I walk into the restroom, and he has his pants down to his ankles, one hand in his ass, while the other is painting the walls like he was Michelangelo at the Sistine Chapel. Crap smeared all over the ground, the mirror, walls, ceiling. Story 40. I was coming back from a drunken night in NYC on the subway and had to use the subway bathroom. I take a piss, and as I'm zipping up, a guy is crouched down on the ground looking like he's tying his shoelaces. He locks eyes with me and makes the Hannibal Lecter slurping/sucking sounds. I'm pissing on the third rail next time. Story 41. I got a couple, but I will tell you the one that most traumatized me. I go to use a urinal, and this guy follows me and goes to the urinal right beside me. I pull up my junk to go piss, and his eyes dart right down to my member. Then he started making weird grunting noises. I'm a pretty shy guy, so I don't know how to confront him. So I zip myself up and start leaving. I didn't even piss because I felt so uncomfortable. He looks at me and says, "I wish mine looked as nice as yours." Ugh, thinking of that still makes me want to vomit. Story 42. May get buried, but here we go. I had a physical exam at the gym because I just registered and they offered it free. Thing is, I was hungover. A lot. So, pumping iron, I feel like crap, but it's not too bad. Then comes the running part. I didn't run very long, and as I make my way to the locker room, my spidey sense is tingling. I enter the locker room almost running, and I am desperately looking for some recipient to puke in. I projectile vomited on almost an entire row of locker. I fumbled excuses at the front desk and went to bed. Story 43. It was probably a week or 2 after I had given birth to my daughter. It was, I think, the first time I had attempted to leave the house with her. I was on my own and badly needed supplies. I went to the newly built Walmart as it was the closest store to my house. While out, she started fussing. It was my first and only baby, so I got nervous. I had never bottle fed her, only breastfed, so I took her to the bathroom. It was still nice and clean as the place had only been opened a few months earlier. The fire alarm went off. Have you ever heard a fire alarm in a fully tiled up empty bathroom? Holy moly! I ran out of the building with one breast hanging out of my shirt, trying to cover my newborn's ears. There was already quite a crowd in the parking lot. I would have been embarrassed if I had not been in a bit of a panic. Turns out, a pallet outside the store in the back had caught fire. No real damage or anything. My daughter is now 19 and has no hearing issues. other than when I ask her to do something important, but I think that's a genetic thing. Story 44. Exactly about the same time when people are making a huge fuss about trans people using the restroom aligning with their gender, I absent-mindedly walked into the men's restroom at Walmart. I looked up from my phone and saw a very surprised man standing in front of me. I immediately realized my mistake and turned around. The guy went, "Wait, you don't have to go, I'm not judging." It was very sweet of him to say that, but I really did just walk into the wrong restroom, and I doubted they would have tampon disposal. Story 45. In middle school, there was a girl who really didn't like me for whatever reason. One day, she broke into my locker and stole my gym clothes, so I was forced to wear the ill-fitting school gym uniform that they'd probably had laying around since the 50s. When class was over, I returned to the locker room to find my regular clothes were now gone too. And I know it was her because she was laughing hysterically the second I opened my locker both times. I had to wear those awful gym clothes the entire day. I know it's not much of a horror story, but to a 12-year-old girl, it's mortifying. Story 46. I stepped out of a men's room in O'Hare last week and paused to use hand sanitizer. A Japanese woman walked up and was about to enter the men's room when I stopped her. I tried to tell her that it wasn't the women's room, but the northern Michigan dialect of Japanese that I speak doesn't actually include any Japanese words. She went on in and stepped out again a moment later, blushing and giggling. That is when I noticed the big sign posted above a much smaller men's room graphic. Women's restroom is located on the far side of the food court pavilion. Over the next 45 minutes, I watched at least a dozen other women nearly walk into the men's room, and 3 who did walk in and right back out, embarrassed. Whoever put that sign up was either incompetent or a jokester. Let's give the sign producer the benefit of the doubt and just say that this was clearly a prank. If it says women's restroom in big bold letters and then fine print underneath, clearly it's meant to draw the attention of women, thus implying that it's a women's room. I think this is just a nice little prank. Story 47. I was at a Renaissance fair once and something had bitten/stung me on my balls. It burns and I decide I need to check it out. They have 2 lines, men only and porta-crappers. I don't remember the real name of the second line. So the way to set up is there are these tall wooden fences that you can't see over. I think, oh, the bathroom must be on the other side. I don't want any women to see me checking out my rogue jewels, so I go to the men only line. As everyone knows, I was wrong. On the other side of the wall is a trash can, full of piss. 1 trash can with 3 guys currently using it. I hopped out of that and went to the other line. As I'm standing in line, this whore in a fairy costume starts dancing around me and loudly asking me about taking a crap. I'm in the line of women and their children. I can't just tell this woman what I'm doing. I've never hit a woman, but if I ever could choke a hoe, it would be that damn fairy. Story 48. Took a deuce at the airport, which is a feat for me. I remember looking up and seeing some balding old dude in a worn-down suit just staring at me through the crack/opening between the door and frame of stall. We made eye contact for what seemed to be an eternity, until I realized he was actually watching me and not just waiting for the next person to be done. I yelled, "Do we have a problem?" and he turned and left. Makes my skin crawl just thinking about it again. Story 49. Freshman year of college, I lived in a dorm that had a large bathroom shared by everyone on the floor. We had a mystery pooper who would leave enormous logs on the floor every couple of days. The most common areas of discovery were the floor in front of the sinks, the floor in front of the stall doors, on the door directly next to the toilets, the middle of the bathroom floor, and one specific shower stall which was always full of used condoms. We suspect this is also the same person who had violent diarrhea a couple times a month. It usually hit the toilet seat, the floors, walls of the stall, and the 10-foot ceiling above the toilet. After the crappy suspect transferred schools, the mystery turds disappeared. Used condom girl didn't transfer, unfortunately, but she eventually got reprimanded. So her boyfriend started coming into the shower drain, which ended up being way worse. Cum plus the volume of hair that accumulates in a shower shared by 20 women equals ew. Not a public restroom, but once a drunk girl found her way to my apartment and took a crap in the unlined wire trash can that was next to the toilet. She also barfed on the bathroom rug, crap in the bathtub, directly adjacent to the toilet. Actually, the trash can was wedged between the two, and the lip of the trash can touched both the tub and the toilet. Barfed in a sink full of dirty dishes. Then she stumbled stark naked into my roommate's bedroom where she removed each pillow from the bed and pissed on them before falling asleep on them. I'm sure you can imagine what drunk crap in a wire trash can was like. Story 50. This happened last week. I work out in the boonies and we all have well water. I just got to work. It's 6:30 a.m. Finished my coffee and I needed to drop the morning deuce. Went to our office unisex bathroom. Had a massive coffee-fueled crap. Went to flush and nada. Check the tank and it's empty. Maybe the flapper was up? I go to the sink to fill a bucket and nothing. I peek outside to ask why there is no water, and there's a line for the bathroom. My boss comes to me in a panic and says the well pump broke and to go to Winn-Dixie and get 15 gallons of water for the various toilets. My giant turd of shame stayed there until I got back. Someone did try to cover it with a paper towel, but it just clogged the toilet. Story 51. A few years back, I was in an airport washroom. As I approached my urinal, I noticed another gentleman at his urinal, moaning in satisfaction. Naive me thought, wow, he really had to go. I was unzipped and in full urgent urination mode of my own when I realized my moaning neighbor was actually going in full-on masturbation mode. Most awkward piss of my life as I had to listen to his grunts and moans and a few choice curse words directed at whatever he was looking at on his phone. The memory still haunts me to this day. I had the standard one urinal buffer, but it wasn't enough, Reddit. It wasn't enough. Story 52. I am the horror story. There's a sign on the wall in the locker room informing patrons at my gym that photography is prohibited in the locker room. Nonetheless, vain a-holes keep doing it, so I make sure I'm in the background. The anal floss towel maneuver, bending over for my gym bag, the Captain Morgan, the whole effing 9 yards. If it seems like the picture of my a-hole follows them around whatever room they're in when they discover my photobomb, then I've done my job. I figure if they followed the rules and respected the privacy of others, then my balls wouldn't end up on their Instagram. I'm keeping the changing room safe for timid people by ruining the selfies of narcissists. I'm the Dick Knight. Story 53. So I attended the same middle and high school for 6th through 12th grade, right? It was a pretty small school, and the middle and high schools were mostly separate, but we shared a lunchroom and just ate at different times. I was taking a dump in one of the restrooms by the lunchroom, and someone comes in, and I assume sees my feet under the stall because he asks, "Who's in there?" I don't reply because WTF, so I just kind of finish my business and wipe. During that time, which I intentionally extended, I don't hear the guy leaving, or even doing anything. But the bell rings for my lunch to end, so I'm like, F it. And I walk out of the stall, and there's just a high school guy I don't recognize standing in front of the door. And once I leave the stall, he just kind of smirks at me and leaves. Story 54. First day of middle school PE. We're all changing in the locker room, and my buddy starts getting picked on real bad for having a huge nose. The bully starts shoving him and kicking him and sack tapping. He loses his crap on the 4 bullies. I watch him slam one's head into a locker, grab the other one in some crazy chokehold, kick one in the nuts, and punch the last one square in the face. Lastly, he took the first guy's head and slammed it into a locker 3 or 4 more times. Almost everyone in the locker room was pantless, too, so bonus points. Dude was a freaking ninja. Okay, so I personally have zero tolerance for bullying, so this is an awesome story. This is satisfying for this guy who presumably has a big nose to just go like straight up Super Saiyan God mode and take out all 4 of his, aggressors. Go you, man, go you. Story 55. I was at work one day and was making my lunch in the break room. I had food in the microwave and a spoon in my pocket ready to stir it. All of a sudden, I had to stop what I was doing and go to the bathroom. I get to the stall and take my pants down when I remember the spoon in my pocket and how I didn't want it to fall out on the dirty bathroom floor. Another guy went into the stall next to me. I finished up and went to pull some toilet paper when the spoon slipped out of my pocket and hit the ground and slid under to the other guy's stall. I froze. I didn't know what to say or what the guy was thinking I was doing with the spoon taking a crap. He didn't say anything. He just very slowly pushed the spoon over with the side of his shoe. I picked it up and washed my hands and ran out of there before he could see me. Story 56. My wife and I were in the middle of a trip to Lowe's in the bathroom department, looking for a new fixture for the home bathroom sink. I turned around in horror and realized my daughter, who was being potty trained, took the opportunity to hop onto one of the display toilets to do her business in the middle of the store. Luckily, my wife snatched her off the toilet seat so fast, nothing happened. My daughter was bewildered for days on which toilet was okay to use and which was for show. Story 57. Years back, I had a little bit of success with a band I was playing in. We were invited to an after party after an awards show and were parked in a private booth with a bunch of execs and artists from Universal Records. There were a few celebrities there, and needless to say, most people in this club were pushed up against our booth trying to get a glimpse of the celebrities partying. Anyways, I had to poo real bad. It was becoming super urgent. A security guard had to escort me to the bathroom, not because I was famous, just because of that booth, so I could get back in. The bathroom was so gross. Typical stall with no lock, door barely closed. There was no way to make this crap quiet either. Super loud farts resonating in the bowl. A security guard guarding my crap. So people thought someone famous was crapping. Someone in the bathroom yelled, "So gross!" And I could hear all these people mumbling about the sounds. Then it came time to head back. There was basically a crowd waiting, haha. Then I was escorted back, and surely people watched and were reminiscing about the guy with celebrities who just took a huge dump. Story 58. I'm trans, so the constant fear of being found out and being either confronted or attacked. I'm female to male, so I'm smaller and weaker than the average male. I've been on hormone replacement therapy for 2 years now, and I pass completely, so that fear has waned for the most part. It's still in the back of my mind, though. My life in general is constant crap like this in the back of my mind. I've already almost been SA'd for it once. Being trans is hard enough, but other people make it a nightmare at times. Story 59. Okay, public school for me. 4th grade, so early 1980s. We had a trough we would piss in during our bathroom breaks. Usually 4 boys could line up, unlimber timber, and squirt away. We started to see how far away we could stand and still make it into the trough. I get the bright idea to stand on the sinks along the back wall, about 12 feet away or more. I held the current record due to my wiener pinching technique. I'm totally hitting the target when I slip. Just as the 6th graders entered the bathroom, where they were all hosed down, not only did I get my ass kicked, but I had to clean the bathrooms twice a day for 3 weeks as punishment. But I was a legend. Story 60. Not mine, but I think my mom was the cause of this one for this woman. So, one of my mom's biggest pet peeves is when people pee on the seat and then don't clean it up. If she catches them, she gives them crap, and this happened once when we were in line for the bathroom at a coffee shop. So we're waiting, and a woman exits the stall and my mom goes in. She sees pee all over the seat and confronts the woman, basically calling her out and telling her to clean it up. The woman refuses and says that it wasn't her. My mom keeps telling her to clean it up and calling the woman a disgusting pig. This scene made 10 times worse by the fact that there were probably about 8 other women there waiting in the bathroom and watching this all go down. I can't remember if the woman eventually cleaned it up or just ran out of the bathroom, but I'm sure that woman had one of the worst bathroom experiences thanks to my mom. Story 61. In the communal showers at the pool/gym locker room, an intellectually disabled guy wanders in and weirdly stands there staring at me and the other men until his carer finds him to escort him out. At the same pool, there was an older man who usually swam the same time in the morning as I was usually there, except I never saw him swim. He just seemed to loiter an excessive amount of time in the men's locker room. Like, I get changed and go for a swim and come back and he's still in there. And he was constantly walking around between the changing areas and the showers and the toilets, making some excuse like seeing if he left a shampoo bottle in the shower, or how he needs to look in the mirror, or whatever, and very obviously taking a look at every man getting changed or showering. Eventually, I went to the front desk and said that there was a certain person with behavior I was concerned about, and they just said there were many complaints already, and were arranging for him to be banned. Story 62. About 12 years ago, I was in a relationship with a guy who was divorced and had 3 kids, aged 14, 7, and 6. We decided to do a family vacation to China together. We flew into Beijing and out of Shanghai, and it was the kids' first trip to a non-Western country. We stayed in a very nice Holiday Inn with standard Western toilets, but warned kids about the squat toilets that they may encounter and how to use them. The teenage girl knew how to use a toilet, so she ignored us when we tried to explain it to the 3 of them. The first time we were out and about, she had to use the bathroom. We were by a modern mall and she ducked into the restroom and after about 5 minutes, emerged saying that the bathroom hurt. The seat was too hard. Then I caught a whiff of what she meant. She actually just sat on the squat toilet and the edges weren't exactly fresh either. Story 63. I wouldn't say it's horror really, but it's the oddest thing that's ever happened to me in a public restroom. I was at a college football game, the kind with the smaller turnout. I use the restroom and come out to see this lady staring rather aggressively at me. Her pants are undone. She's wearing a wig that's only half on her head. I do the smile and nod of nervousness. With that engagement established, she barks, "Come here and button my pants!" I do not button her pants. I instead flee in a cowardly fashion. To be clear, I think she was mentally ill and not instead trying to chat me up in a fashion destined to fail. Still, it happened maybe 15 years ago, and when I find myself in a public restroom with only one other person, I can still hear the phantom echoes of, "Come here and button my pants." Story 64. Oh man. Bad memories. Had to use the restroom in between classes in college. The bathroom I went into had 2 stalls, but only one had a door on it. I had to walk past the open stall to get to the doored one, and as I walked past, I realized there was a full-grown dude, trousers all the way down to his ankles, leaning forward and grunting/straining in the stall with no door. What made it worse was we made eye contact for a split second. I unfortunately was rather desperate for a bathroom at the moment, so I had no choice but to use the next door stall to this poor bastard. So there I'm sitting in my private little box with a gruntling, splatter-sounding occupant next door to me, and I'm debating whether to stay in my stall and wait for him to leave, risking being late for my next class, or try to get done as quickly as possible. About 30 seconds pass, filled with crappy ambiance, and the guy starts talking to me. When you gotta go, you gotta go. Am I right? I was horror-stricken. Why is he talking to me? All I could awkwardly manage in response was a weak, yeah. And this guy starts laughing about it, as if that was enough to alleviate the awkwardness of the situation. He proceeds to small talk me through the most weird 3 minutes of my life, continuing all along with the occasional grunt/splash. I don't even remember anymore what happened next, whether I even made it to my next class, whether I tried to get out quickly, or if I even responded to any of his small talk. Story 65. 2nd grade, one of the first days there. I asked the teacher if I may use the restroom. She points down the hall. I go down the hall and see a bathroom on my left. I enter, turn the lights on, and see urinals. Had never actually seen them before. And 1 stall. I assume this was a unisex bathroom or something. I go to the stall, pee, come out, and I'm about to wash my hands when my crush walks in. Me. Him. Only then do I realize this is the boys' bathroom. He looks at me kind of awkwardly, then backs out into the hallway and just waits till I come out. I rush past him and notice the girls' bathroom across the hall. It's one of those things my brain likes to bring up when I'm trying to go to sleep. Story 66. Oh boy, I can answer this one. So, I was having really bad constipation all effing day. Like, dear sweet baby Jesus was trying to crawl his way out of my goddamn anus. I was bloated and in extreme pain. Then the contractions hit. Like, dear sweet F. I waddled to the nearest restroom, a Walmart restroom, no doubt. First stall, closed. Second stall, closed. All that's left is the handicap stall, and at this point, I am goddamn desperate. I can feel this baby trying to work its way out. So I sit. For a solid 5 minutes, I have this thick, smelly log loop out of my colon. Soon it's over. No toilet paper. Well, okay. I wipe with a wet wipe and throw it out, and then I stand to see the beast. You know those giant-ass burritos that are the size of a baby? That's kind of what it looked like. Thick and massive. I had troubles believing it came from my a-hole. I flush, but it won't go down. So I stare at this crap baby and I quickly evacuate the area. Just after I leave, a person in a mobility scooter rolls in, and then rolls out, gagging. I think they had to call the maintenance for that poop. I'm so sorry, Walmart workers. Story 67. I work at a gym. We have saunas in the gym. Going around and closing one night, I go into the woman's locker room. I do the usual male entering. It's after close, no answer. So I go to the sauna, open it up, and there's this 80-year-old Asian lady, completely naked, just sitting there, spread eagle. It took me a second to process what I was seeing. I say I'm sorry as I do the whole look away and not make eye contact and close the door. That image is burned in my brain forever. Story 68. I'm on the first day of my vacation in Malaysia. Have a wonderful dinner on the beach at my resort. Indian food. Then, the next day, my wife and I go on a 6-hour-long boat tour through a mangrove forest with about 12 other tourists from around the globe. About 2 hours in, the Indian time bomb in my bowels is going off, and I'm trapped on this small boat with no way to relieve myself. So there I am, just sitting there in agony, my legs and butt cheeks clenched together like a reverse Jaws of life. As the tour continues, I start contemplating in my head the possibility of jumping overboard into the murky mystery water and just letting it go in front of all these people. Mercifully, my wife tells the guides my situation, and they skip part of the tour to let us go on our lunch destination faster, where they will have a restroom. Part 2. Electric Dumparoo. So we get to where lunch will be, and it's this floating fishing village on the side of the river. I make a beeline for the bathroom, and somehow I'm able to pull my pants down in time for the inevitable fecal explosion. In all the excitement, I miss the giant bucket that was sitting next to me. Turns out, the place didn't actually have a working toilet, so I had to scoop up some murky river water and pour it into the toilet in order to flush down the curry and rice I had left behind. Took 3 bucketfuls to get it all. I wish this was the end of the story, but my garlic non-processing wasn't finished. So later on the tour, I had to have them swing the boat back around to this village so I could redo the whole thing a second time. Story 69. Penn State, University Park, East Halls, Snyder, second floor. The building was not co-ed at the time. We thought it was great fun to steal people's towels, robes, shorts, and so on when they were in the shower. It made for an embarrassing run to the room, which was often locked. We would try to arrange a few female visitors to increase the fun level a bit. Anyway, we were swiping a buddy's stuff and made a little too much noise. He looked out of the shower and grabbed for his towel about the same time one of us grabbed it too. Imagine a water skier hanging on to a tow rope going around the corner. He fell on his butt and slid dick up underneath an occupied stall. There was much screaming. We left. Story 70. This isn't a public restroom story, but it's a horror story nonetheless. When I was 14 or so, I was visiting my grandparents and we spent the weekend on their boat. The boat had a marine toilet, and one evening I really had to take a dump. It would have been smarter for me to walk ashore to the marina bathroom, but I was too embarrassed to do so. My grandparents had previously warned me not to go number 2 on the boat because the plumbing was sensitive or something. So if they saw me going ashore, they'd know I was going to poop, and God forbid they realized that I had bowel movements. I can't explain my logic. I was 14. Anyway, I figured, it'll probably be fine. So I proceed to do my business in that tiny marine toilet. It was a massive poop, maybe one of the biggest of my life, and solid like a rock. When I flushed it, that Lincoln log wouldn't budge. I stepped on the handle to put more water in the toilet bowl and then flushed again. Still no movement. Tried a third time. That giant turd was standing straight up at a 90-degree angle, mocking me, refusing to go down. I tried to flush a fourth time. Nope, not happening. At this point, I started to panic. I looked around the tiny bathroom for something I could use to break up the log into smaller pieces. The only available implement was my grandfather's toothbrush. Thank God I had enough sense not to go that route. I sat there for a few minutes, not knowing what to do. Finally, I knew I had to confess. I stepped out of the bathroom and mumbled to my grandma, "It won't go down." She looked inside the toilet and witnessed my colonic failure firsthand. Wordlessly, she got a paper towel and a grocery bag and proceeded to extricate that turd from its hidey hole by wrapping the paper towel around it and giving it a good yank. My life ended at this point. I sank into the floor and died of humiliation. She then deposited it into the bag, carried it ashore for disposal, and being the amazing grandma that she was, never once spoke to me of the incident. That was the last time I pooped on the boat. Story 71. Okay, years ago I was at a state park. I went to the restroom and was immediately hit with a nasty, putrid smell. I was so taken aback by the putrid, rancid smell, I put my hand over my mouth. I stumbled out, but my car keys fell out of my pocket. I looked down and there was an enormous pile of crap and vomit. I run and slipped into it. I was covered in crap, vomit, and flies. Oh my F, I ended up losing $100 to get new car keys made. No way I dig through that. If you smell really nasty smells with bugs in the restroom, be calm and leave.